Chapter 445 Empyreal Flame. There were lights like flowing lines all over the dark blue armor, and Huo Yue used dark gold and terraclaw yet again. Across the sky. Torn. Death. The armor on Huo Yue's hand split open according to his will when he was unleashing dark gold and terraclaw, and it flipped backwards onto his wrist and transformed into heavier braces. Sun Swen had named this human-shaped soul tool the Solo battle armor, and the only problem with this soul tool was that it couldn't amplify some of Huo Yue's offensive abilities. For instance, Huo Yue's ultimate ice and dark gold and terraclaw were too destructive, and the suit probably couldn't take that level of power when he unleashed everything at full strength. Therefore, Sun Swen placed extra emphasis and effort on speed and defense when he was building this soul tool, especially speed. This was a class 7 soul tool, and it could erupt with an 8-ring soul Douluo's top speed. Even titled Douluo would have to put in some effort if they wanted to catch up to Huo Yue. Huo Yue's formidable fighting strength became even more conspicuous by relying on this terrifying speed. Huo Yue had killed 3 out of 5 men within a few blinks of the eye, and the 2 other soul engineers were not idiots. They didn't have to speak to each other as they both turned tail and ran back towards the Mingdo Mountain range. Huo Yue didn't chase them, even though he had taken 3 people down so quickly. His expression became very solemn. That was because he could see 10 dark blue shadows flying towards him at breakneck speed. Huo Yue could tell from their soul power undulations that those 10 who followed behind were much stronger than the 5 who had come before. More importantly, Huo Yue was acquainted with them. Weren't they part of the evil tyrant legion, which was a beast lord ranked legion that was most adept at speed, who were also part of the hand that protects the nation? They were all soul sages, at least 9 soul sages and a soul Douluo. Huo Yue quickly judged his enemy's strength with spiritual detection. Fierce. They must be the real elites of the evil tyrant legion. Even though Huo Yue was very confident, he wasn't willing to face off against enemies like that. He wouldn't be afraid if they were coming at him one by one, and the soul Douluo was no exception. However, the most frightening feature of the Sun Moon Empire's soul engineer legions was the chemistry they had with each other with their soul tools. They would be able to amplify their fighting strength by several times once they began to work together, and the 10 of them together probably had strength comparable to a titled Douluo. That wasn't something that he wanted to face. I can't delay any longer. Thoughts spun like lightning in his head, and he surged into the air once more. He rose into the sky much faster than before due to his solo battle armor. Furthermore, his armor itself provided him with extra protection. Huo Yue activated imitation and spiritual interference domain once more. The soul engineers from the evil tyrant legion hadn't come near, and they wouldn't be able to detect his actual location if they didn't have oscillation detectors. The biggest problem when fighting against soul engineers was when they were able to lock onto their opponents, especially in 1 versus 1 situations. A soul engineer's opponent would only become a target if the soul engineer managed to lock onto his or her opponent. Huo Yue didn't have a hobby like that. 7 other high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tools had arrived, and the 9 remaining ones were still in the process of flying over. However, Huo Yue knew that he couldn't wait any longer, and he couldn't possibly bring away all 22 of them. I'll take whatever I can. I can't be greedy anymore, and safety is always first. Those 10 members of the evil tyrant legion were bearing down on him very quickly. They were part of the dagger section that the manic bull Douluo Wang Yiheng had ordered out into battle. There were only 5 teams like that in the evil tyrant legion, and they were the legion's core fighting strength. They were also directly commanded by Wang Yiheng. They were the best of the best. The 2 soul engineers who were running away quickly rendezvoused with the 10 of them, and they swiftly took out their oscillation detectors as they chased in Huo Yue's direction. This mobilization displayed their tremendous cooperative abilities. The 10 members from the dagger section swiftly dispersed, and then separated even further away from each other than the first 5 soul engineers. Their oscillation detectors seemed to be more effective, and they immediately discovered Huo Yue's figure in the next moment. Up there. 2 of them stopped, and an enormous cannon that was 2 meters long and had an opening that was at least a foot in diameter appeared on each of their shoulders. These 2 cannons were aimed at Huo Yue's location, which they had just discovered, and they quickly fired off. 2 enormous silver beams of light surged into the air and came straight for Huo Yue. Shock bombs. Huo Yue could immediately tell that they were class 7 shock bombs. These things weren't toys. Their most unique quality was how wide the area of effect could reach. Furthermore, everyone would be affected if they found themselves within the shock bomb's area of effect no matter what level of cultivation they had. Their enemies would come once they were rendered sluggish and slow-moving. The other 8 quickly raised their speed to the highest possible level and began surrounding Huo Yue's position. Huo Yue's eyes became increasingly determined faced with this situation. It wasn't as if he hadn't encountered even more challenging circumstances. The stronger his opponents were, the more his potential was stimulated. Ever since he became a soul sage, he still hadn't given his all in a battle. This was true even against the evil eye tyrant. The evil eye tyrant couldn't take an attack with his full strength. Huo Yue paused in midair, and a white shadow separated from his body in the next moment. 2 dark blue light blades flickered faintly in the sky. The 2 shock bombs that were hurtling through the air paused in the sky, and intense explosions that carried countless silver rays blanketed an enormous area of effect in the next moment. Unparalleled chill. Empress sword. The snow lady levitated in the sky. One could tell from her gorgeous frame that she was about 13 or 14 years of age, and her ice-cold features emanated noble and elegant qualities. She was just hovering silently in the night sky, but she gave others a feeling of formless beauty. The 2 shock bombs exploding didn't impede Huo Yue at all. Instead, they stopped the other members of the evil tyrant legion's dagger section because they had exploded prematurely. They weren't willing to commit when facing off against a powerful enemy such as Huo Yue. What if they were ambushed by their enemy? They could only wait for a few seconds, and then continue charging forward only after the shock bomb's effects had dissipated. Several dozen blue soul rays went straight for the snow lady. They hadn't seen what their opponent looked like from the beginning to the end, and they didn't have time to communicate with the 2 soul engineers from before who had retreated. Naturally, they considered the snow lady as their enemy when she appeared, even though she didn't quite seem like their enemy because she was looked 13 or 14. They weren't willing to let anyone go even if they had to kill the wrong people. The snow lady hovered in midair and swung her large sleeves as a clean white circle appeared and transformed into countless ice crystals in the sky. These ice crystals were smooth like mirrors, and even more strangely, every single ice crystal seemed to block a single soul ray just right. These ice crystals didn't clash head-on with the soul rays. After every soul ray was blocked by an ice crystal, they were refracted, and the ice crystals melted while the soul rays dispersed in all directions. Not a single one could even come close to the snow lady, who could compare to the snow empress and the ice empress in terms of controlling ice and snow. The snow lady's strength grew along with Huo Yue's own. Ever since the star Annis mysterious ice grass had fused with him, Huo Yue's ultimate ice had sublimated, and the snow lady's recovery had been catalyzed. Huo Yue wasn't sure whether the snow lady would become the snow empress one day, or whether she could have the snow empress peak strength. But at least from what the situation seemed like now, that was still a possibility. If that did occur, the snow empress herself would rival an ultimate Douluo. The snow lady's strength exceeded the soul engineer's expectations, but their attacks had just begun. Concentrate our beams. The team leader exclaimed. They couldn't be bothered with being kind and taking pity on women anymore. They had to take their opponent down before anything else. Blue rays were fired again one after another. However, they were not aimed directly at the snow lady. Instead, they were focused on a single point in the sky. All 10 team members' thoughts were as one, and soul rays that were as thick as an arm fired after they concentrated on one point. The dark blue beam they created didn't become thicker, but became a lot thinner instead. It surged across the sky and arrived in front of the snow lady in an instant. The snow lady's expression became a little more solemn. She reached out with her right hand, and her palm became a patch of icy blue. She pressed at the air in the sky and clashed with the soul ray. BRRNG. A strange chime rang out in the sky. In the next moment, the snow lady's beautiful frame became a little more illusory. However, the soul ray also dissipated at the same time. The 10 soul engineers were stunned speechless. This attack had concentrated soul rays from 9 class 7 soul engineers and a class 8 soul engineer. Even though the soul ray itself wasn't powerful, 10 stacked together was absolutely comparable to an all-out attack from a soul Douluo. Yet it seemed like this little girl who looked like she was only 13 or 14 managed to block this attack. What was happening? What they didn't see was that Huo Yue, who had concealed himself, trembled when the snow lady took this hit. The snow lady's strength came from him. However, the snow empress herself was strong, and the snow lady had the snow empress imprint. Thus, she could channel part of her own strength as well. The snow lady had used Snowless Glacier in that attack. Even if she was facing a soul master, not even soul Douluo would have a good time clashing head-on with this attack. However, soul tools were different from soul masters in in the end, and an attack that came purely from soul power caused the intense chill contained within Snowless Glacier to be ineffective. This meant the Snow Lady and Huo Yua had suffered a hidden loss. The Snow Lady began spinning around in midair. Her long, pure white dress danced as large patches of snowflakes dispersed through the air and cocooned around her beautiful frame. Empress Chill, in addition to Huo Yuao's domain of perpetual ice, immediately transformed into the snowy dance of ultimate ice. The temperature at that altitude was low in the first place. Even though there wasn't much water in the air, the temperature still plummeted once his snowy dance of ultimate ice was released. The soul engineers that were about to launch another follow-up attack couldn't help but feel their bodies move a little sluggishly as every one of them activated their protective soul barriers to defend themselves. So cold. They all felt the same thing at the same time. More frighteningly, the young lady's figure had disappeared into the large swathes of snowflakes. Huo Yua had risen to an even higher altitude under the Snow Lady's cover, and the high-altitude aerial surveillance tools were now within his reach. The Snow Lady was directing his snowy dance of ultimate ice, and that meant its effects were not as good as if he had been the one directing it. However, delaying his enemies for a short while was sufficient. That was because his soul and spiritual power had an extremely high degree of integration, and he could thus leave a stream of his own spiritual power to the Snow Lady. Only then could they separate from each other for longer distances. Otherwise, the Snow Lady couldn't do even battle when she was so far away from him. There were nine more high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tools had arrived, and these represented enormous wealth in addition to what Huo Yua had collected earlier on. Huo Yua accelerated with everything he had, and finally arrived in front of those high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tools with a few flashes and flickers. He didn't hesitate at all, and his starlight sapphire storage ring flickered as he swiftly pocketed those soul tools one after another. But right at this moment, he suddenly felt an intense wave of alarm as he looked down subconsciously. What he saw was a sphere of scorching heat that seemed like the sun as its light erupted viciously. Oh no. Huo Yua channeled his consciousness and swiftly summoned the Snow Lady. The Snow Lady transformed into a beam of flowing light as she surged up into the sky. However, Huo Yua could still feel that his soul power was leaking out at a crazy rate. Furthermore, he could feel waves of weakness in his spiritual power. The Snow Lady was a spirit, and she couldn't truly die. However, Huo Yua was the one who had to expend energy when she was attacked. In some sense, spirits were a soul master's partial avatars. A soul master would be severely injured if their spirits died, and nobody knew how long a soul master would need to reaggregate those spirits. At least, Huo Yua didn't want to have that kind of experience. A strange little flower peeked out from Huo Yua's shoulder. Circles of icy blue light blanketed the area below him and met with the Snow Lady. Yes, it was the star anise making its move. The rolling heat waves that were rising up from beneath were blocked for a moment with the star anis's help, and only then did the Snow Lady transform into a ray of light before she reintegrated into Huo Yua's body. Huo Yua couldn't help but draw a cold breath as he watched that sudden beam of intense light, which had erupted all too suddenly and resembled the sun. So powerful. Who has come? Such a terrifying attack. Is he crazy? Huo Yua no longer continued to wait for the other high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tools to arrive, and immediately turned to run. He activated all his soul power and transformed into a beam of light as he went straight for the Dalu Empire's camp. There was only one possibility for someone to create such a disturbance. A Class 9 soul engineer had arrived. Furthermore, Huo Yua hadn't discovered his enemy with his spiritual power. This meant that his enemy possibly carried soul tools that impeded his spiritual detection. An opponent like that was something that he absolutely couldn't fight against. Right at this moment, spheres of fiery light suddenly blasted into the sky. Every single one of these fireballs was at least 1 meter in diameter, and several hundred of them rose into the sky in the blink of an eye. They lit up the entire area, and every fireball seemed like a tiny little sun that shone with searing brilliance. A tall and muscular figure rose from below at the same time and with incredible speed. He can't escape. An awe-inspiring growl could be heard. The manic bull Douluo, Wang Yiheng, was already in the sky. Huo Yua hadn't seen him do anything at all, but those fireballs that rose into the sky erupted with beams of fiery light that swiftly congregated into an enormous flaming web. There were faint rippling distortions in the air. This web of fire perfectly blocked off Huo Yua's escape path. Such a powerful soul engineer. He must be Class 9. Huo Yua didn't stop at all. For his current situation, there was only one solution against such a circumstance, and that was to force his way out. He would be in deep trouble if he couldn't break out of this. He stopped using imitation, and his figure emerged from the air. The temperature in the air was very high due to the looming web of fire, but Huo Yua didn't release his ultimate ice to combat the heat because that would exacerbate his energy consumption. The star anise mysterious ice grass released faint icy blue hues that covered his entire body, and these layers completely cut off the intense heat from his surroundings. The star anise was no good at offense, but its auxiliary and support effects were extraordinary. The manic bull Douluo was momentarily stunned when Huo Yua revealed himself with his human-shaped soul tool. A human-shaped soul tool? Can that actually be a human-shaped soul tool? Since when has the Dalu Empire's research into soul tools reached such a standard? He was surprised, but his movements didn't slow. The fiery web wove through the sky, and the large fireballs rapidly switched positions as the flaming web came down directly on Huo Yua to garrot him. Wang Yiheng's martial soul was quite strong in the first place. He pursued high explosiveness, power, and intense heat when he was doing his own research into soul tools. He had a pure desire for destructiveness. He managed to become commander of one of the legions that belonged to the hand that protects the nation, so it wasn't hard to imagine his prowess. Even if he wasn't as powerful as the Starsky Douluo, Yilin, he wasn't that much weaker. The soul tool that he was currently using was called Empyreal Blaze, and it was his own creation. It was formed from 365 Empyrean pearls, and every pearl was under his control. He himself was the center of this formation. The Empyreal Blaze was roughly ranked between number 10 and number 12 amongst the other Class 9 soul tools. One should never disregard it because it was ranked after number 10. This ranking system also considered stationary soul cannon shells, and Wang Yiheng had only attained the status that he had now because of his Empyrean Blaze. High-altitude aerial surveillance soul tools were far too important. That was the reason why he used his signature move from the get-go. Of course, the Snow Empress' original strength wasn't something that he could match up to, but what the current Snow Lady could muster was too weak. Huo Yua wasn't the one directing his snowy dance of ultimate ice, and it was directly broken through under the throttling burn of Wang Yiheng's Empyrean Blaze. The fiery web was sweeping down upon him at this moment. The Empyrean Blaze was most adept at control and incineration, and controlled the entire situation. Huo Yua's mind was clear as he took a deep breath. He didn't show any timidity at all as his eye of destiny opened on his forehead. The blue jewel on his solo battle armor's forehead immediately glowed, and strange soul power undulations rippled outward. In the next moment, a brilliant purple beam cut across the skies as it burst out like a lightning bolt. The purple beam turned rose gold the moment it left the jewel, and stretched across the skies. Not even the Empyrean Blaze could block it, not even a little bit, and it immediately appeared before Wang Yiheng. Wang Yiheng belonged to the younger and more vigorous generation of soul engineers amongst the Class 9 soul engineers. He had many insights into the newest technology, and he was also ferociously strong at the same time. He could immediately tell that something wasn't right when Huo Yua made his move. Is that a pure spiritual type attack? A pure white headband suddenly appeared on Wang Yiheng's head. 7 silver jewels formed the front of this headband, and these jewels suddenly erupted with brilliant light under Wang Yiheng's control as they transformed into a silver shield that protected him behind it. The rose gold beam struck this shield, and the shield quivered faintly before the rose gold beam dissipated into nothingness. Far into the distance, the jewel on Huo Yua's solo battle armor exploded into smithereens with a bang. He didn't turn back as he charged in the direction of the Empyrean Blaze. Wang Yiheng was clearly a little lackadaisical at this moment, and his head suddenly arched backward as if someone had clipped him heavily on the face. The silver shield before him and the headband on his head disintegrated at the same time. Wang Yiheng could feel intense dizziness in his head. That frightening wave of spiritual power was like a drill as it pierced deep into his brain, and he immediately lost control of the Empyrean Blaze. While the flames were greatly reduced in that instant, Huo Yua leveraged this short window of opportunity, and his 3 pairs of wings glowed radiantly as they carried him towards the outside. Another layer of diamond ice crystals covered his solo battle armor at the same time to protect him from the intense heat. He was almost at the edge of the Empyrean Blaze. Wang Yiheng managed to recover at this moment. Such powerful spiritual power. Even though he felt a wave of terror in his heart, he didn't slow down in his control of his Empyrean blaze. The dimming flames became searing hot once more, and more than 10 Empyrean pearls went straight for Huo Yuao's position to lock him down. Huo Yuao disappeared in a flash, instant teleportation. He escaped the Empyrean pearls area of effect in a blink, and escaped from the Empyrean blaze's entrapment. However, Wang Yiheng wasn't by himself. The dagger section's other team members were still outside. They had been observing Huo Yuao's movements this entire time. They saw that he had actually broken out, and large amounts of soul rays and soul cannons instantly assaulted him like a hurricane. Huo Yuao's 7 soul rings glimmered into view, and his 5th soul ring shimmered as he switched positions with one of the dagger section's members in the distance. Huo Yuao's spiritual detection covered the entire area even though he was mired in danger. He had chosen this person a long time ago, and his target was the section's leader, the Soul Douluo, the Class 8 soul engineer. This Soul Douluo became the target of the hurricane once their positions were switched. The Empyrean blaze was behind him, and his teammates' powerful attacks were in front of him. The Class 8 soul engineer himself was greatly astonished. Huo Yuao didn't stay to fight after he switched positions with him, and a rose gold circle suddenly radiated outward with his head at the center. Spiritual blast, a skill carried by the 3-eyed golden lion's skull. Every single Class 7 soul engineer suffered the same outcome after they took a hit from Huo Yuao's spiritual blast, which was unleashed from his eye of destiny. They lost control of their bodies in an instant and plummeted towards the ground. Huo Yuao didn't give everything he had in his attack so that he could escape successfully. After all, he had used his full strength when he had attacked Wang Yiheng with spiritual shock, and he had to leave some strength to retreat at a time like this. Huo Yuao turned and flew away as he continued to escape while he unleashed spiritual blast. Huo Yuao had duplicated Swanwu displacement from Shu Sanqi, and it created unexpected effects every time he used it. It lived up to its name as one of the defense-type soulmaster's legendary soul skills. Wang Yiheng unleashed his immense prowess as a Class 9 soul engineer at this moment. The Empyrean pearls that were originally targeting Huo Yuao suddenly stretched out and flew around the 8-ringed Soul Douluo's body. Not only did they not hurt him, they wrapped around in front of him and blocked the attacks from the dagger section's other 9 members. This control of the Empyrean blaze was just perfect. What a cunning fellow. Wang Yiheng's face blackened. He didn't go ahead to rescue the Class 7 soul engineers who were plummeting towards the ground, because those people had clearly awakened during their freefall. They were working hard to control their bodies, but they weren't in much danger even though they were cutting very sorry figures. 365 pearls bolted toward Huo Yuao like shooting stars under Wang Yiheng's control. These fiery shooting stars weren't just blindly attacking. Instead, they seemed to resemble a web that was stretching out as they closed in around him. Wang Yiheng also made his move as he accelerated in pursuit as fast as he could. Huo Yuao was trying to run away, but he didn't forget to retrieve his long-range soul controller to detonate the high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tools that he didn't have time to take away. A series of explosions could be heard from behind. Wang Yiheng didn't have to look to know what had happened, and his expression became incredibly malevolent. He didn't have to ask to know that those high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tools that they had lost contact with probably didn't end well. Bastard. This bastard. I'll kill him. The Empyrean blaze was simply too quick. Huo Yuao was already using his full strength, but the Empyrean blaze was still continuously bearing down on him. The scorching heat and sweltering air kept gaining on him, but the temperature didn't affect Huo Yuao much, because he relied on his Ice Empress armor and his solo battle armor for protection. What he had to do now was accelerate. Huo Yuao was quite near the Dalu Empire's northwestern field army. He only had to keep this up for just a little while more before his problems would end. Close. Wang Yiheng exclaimed, and the Empyrean blaze suddenly expanded before it abruptly accelerated and closed up. Wang Yiheng used almost 10% of his soul power for this move. However, Huo Yuao's figure also suddenly picked up speed at that moment. He was like a beam of flowing light as he rocketed across the skies and reappeared in the distance. He can still accelerate. That's not possible. Only a tidal Douluo can reach that speed. But that fellow's soul power undulations show that he's clearly not a tidal Douluo. Another figure appeared within Wang Yiheng's vision, and that person turned to run along with the first one. Yes, Shu Sanqi was the one who came to provide support for Huo Yuao. Shu Sanqi had actually been waiting at a location not far from Huo Yuao from beginning to end, and he communicated with Huo Yuao through his spiritual detection. That was the reason why he could save Huo Yuao in the nick of time. The distance that he had suddenly covered meant that Wang Yiheng's sudden burst of energy achieved nothing. Furthermore, he even paused for a moment in the sky because he had used too much soul power before he could continue chasing him. When Wang Yiheng was just starting to move again, he suddenly felt a sharp pain on the side of his face, and subconsciously glanced toward his side. But there was nothing there. All he could see was pitch black darkness. However, there seemed to be a poisonous snake hiding within the darkness, and this poisonous snake was just revealing its sharpest fangs and was about to swallow him whole. Wang Yiheng didn't know who his opponent in the darkness was. He was worried that the Dalu Empire would make their move, as they were very close to the Dalu Empire after all. He would have a hard time if there were several tidal Douluo waiting to ambush him in the sky. He had reinforcements from the Sun Moon Empire, but their job at the Mingdo Mountain range was for defense. They didn't have enough strength for an offense. That razor-sharp sword intent finally appeared, and Wang Yiheng felt as if the entire black sky was being torn open at that moment. The sword intent was actually vicious, and everything around it seemed to be obliterated. Yet, there seemed to be some kinds of emotions rippling through all that obliteration. There was focus and stubbornness. There was depth and clarity. What is this? Wang Yiheng was a soul master and a soul engineer, but he had never felt strength such as this, as if this strength shouldn't belong to this world at all. Darkness blanketed him in that instant. Wang Yiheng had no choice but to use his Empyrean blaze to defend himself. Several dozen Empyrean pearls went dark in that moment, and a brilliant golden light glowed in the night sky, while the sword intent was raised to its highest possible level. A beam of sword light cut across the skies. It disappeared in a flash, and raced into the distance before it caught up with Huo Yuao and Shu Sanqi. This beam even seemed to carry them and accelerate. Wang Yiheng didn't dare to chase them. After the sword intent flew across the sky after it transformed from darkness to light, his several dozen Empyrean pearls that were struck began to crackle with ear-piercing shrillness. Large cracks started to appear even though they didn't break into pieces. Those Empyrean pearls were extremely difficult to forge, even though their advantage lay in their numbers. Every single one of them was a result of his blood and sweat. A single broken piece would cause him great and uncontrollable heartache. No, that fellow. Wang Yiheng suddenly felt that something wasn't right after his momentary confusion. That kind of sword intent made him fearful, but the person channeling that sword intent clearly didn't have enough strength. At least, that person didn't have enough strength to threaten him. I've been tricked. Wang Yiheng's Empyrean blaze fired out once more after he realized that something was amiss, and he continued chasing Huo Yuao and Shu Sanqi. He was about to explode with anger. They are clearly not very powerful, but they have been deceiving me again and again. Not only have they destroyed so many high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tools, but they have also damaged my Empyrean blaze. They both have to die. Wang Yiheng used his full strength as he lashed out with his Empyrean blaze. He transformed into an enormous bull in midair at the same time, and his flying speed suddenly increased exponentially. He wasn't using his flying type soul tool this time. He was burning his formidable soul power as a tidal Douluo. He knew that he only had one chance to attack. If he couldn't catch them with this strike, he would have exceeded the Mingdo Mountain range's area of protection, and he could very well become his enemy's prey if that happened. Therefore, he didn't hold back in this attack. Several figures shot into the sky in the distance. There were 5 of them, and they spaced out in a row as they each radiated with different colors. They were all females. The girl in the center burst with bright dragon roars as a pair of enormous dragon wings stretched out behind her. She transformed into a giant dragon amidst the dragon roars, and her 6th and 7th soul rings flickered at the same time. Radiant Dragon Butterfly. It was Tang Wutong. Even though her form was called Radiant Dragon Butterfly, her martial soul true body was presented entirely in dragon form, but there were waves and curves that resembled a butterfly's wings on the edges of her dragon wings. The aura that she released wasn't just noble and elegant. There was a feeling as if she was looking down on the entire world. Dragon God Slaughter Dance. Her 6th soul skill. An enormous shadow of a dragon emerged from her Radiant Dragon Butterfly true body, and it immediately transformed into a colossal dragon that was 100 meters long as it went straight for the Empyrean blaze. She wasn't the only one who attacked. Jiang Nanan, Yi Gu Yi, Nan Qiu Kaiyu, and Jing Zian all unleashed their strongest soul skills. A large pink python glimmered behind Jiang Nanan's back and circled around her. Jiang Nanan transformed into beam after beam of flowing light as she dashed out closely behind Tang Wutong. The white light that she had shifted into seemed like the radiant dragon butterflies out a garment, and they combined together just like that. The Empyrean pearls that were at the forefront collided with Jiang Nanan's martial soul true body. They were actually bounced away by some kind of flexible strength, and their fiery strength was not released at all, as if they had been cut off. The dragon god's slaughter dance erupted with eye-catching purple light, and large swathes of Empyrean pearls were blocked off just like that. Tang Wutong used action to prove her formidable strength to everyone, and not even Hua Yua had fought with her face-to-face before this. She was forcefully blocking a Class 9 Soul Engineer's signature Class 9 Soul tool. She could be proud of herself even if she could only hold on for a little while. Yi Yi's expression was solemn as she clasped her hands above her head. Her holy sword radiated with intense light as her 4 angel wings stretched out behind her back. Immense light power aggregated as her beautiful frame suddenly flew forward. Nan Qiupai disappeared behind her in a flash. Yi Yi overtook Tang Wutong's position in the next moment, and she flew toward a higher altitude. Her radiant holy sword resembled a rainbow as it slashed down towards the manic bull Douluo. Wang Yiheng waved his right hand, and a dozen Empyrean pearls went for the holy sword. The holy sword's radiance was bounced away, but the Empyrean pearl's glow was evidently dimmer than before. Wang Yiheng could feel his heart aching. How can these soul masters, who still seem quite young, have such powerful attacking strength? He wasn't done lamenting when a pinkish beam of light swept up those Empyrean pearls after it flickered from behind the holy sword. Something that made Wang Yiheng absolutely astonished happened. The flames on his Empyrean pearls dimmed, and their explosive strength immediately disappeared. Those pearls began to plummet toward the ground like that, and he couldn't even communicate with them anymore. What was happening? A patch of fog swept over and pulled both Yi Yi and Nan Qiupai back. Jiang Nanan retreated as well, and landed back beside Tang Wutong. The dragon god's slaughter dance was also reaching its end, and the Empyrean blaze finally broke through the enormous dragon shadow. In terms of cultivation, Hua Yua and the others were all a far cry from the manic bull Douluo. However, every single one of them was the best of the best. They supported each other again and again as all 8 of them came together, and the 5 pearls assault was like tidal waves as they forcefully blockaded Wang Yiheng. I can't hold back any longer. Wang Yiheng watched as the 3 people who were running away before this stood their ground, and all 8 of them no longer attempted to escape even though they were facing him. He felt a chill run down his spine. He suddenly realized that he had exceeded the area of protection offered by the Ningdo mountain ranges long-range soul tools, and this meant that he could no longer receive any reinforcements here. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.